Welcome everyone to a hopefully more interesting stream, as the other experimental random stuff on my secondary channel was not the most watched yesterday and today and such. Anyway, why do I try this random streaming? Because I want to see what you guys like and what not. Something more interesting, hacking Apple batteries for fun and profit. And this battery is from, you have seen my other video of vintage Apple stuff, and with this vintage Apple stuff also comes the burden of keeping them alive. And this is even from when I was using this non-unibody 15-inch MacBook Pro on a nearly daily basis there for actual software development and such. And I wanted to document here something and hack on this because I'm really disappointed that Apple intentionally disables batteries. Okay, this is dead right now. And what this is about is that you have seen we had quite some Macs, and I have seen this many times, and I'm really sad about this. And this is additional reason why I'm not the greatest fan here. Here's, by the way, another battery that is a little bit more salvaged because I unsoldered already the battery controller some year ago. This is how the battery controller, I think it was folded over. There was a quite fancy and expensive build here with this dual PCB with this flex ribbon cable in between. And I desoldered this from this one because this one was more dead. With this cells were swollen. I have already e-wasted them. I only kept this around for tinkering and reverse engineering, and the symptoms were multiple times the same, which is you leave the battery for some months in your MacBook and it won't work anymore, which is particularly sad for this one because this is nearly new, and I brought this as a replacement, so my original battery was dead after 2 or 3 years. Also mainly because I used it, like my brother's MacBook, too much on my desk, obviously, in the office. And if you don't use the batteries much, then they die eventually rather quickly. And I brought a new replacement. This is an original Apple replacement here. This only lasted 6 months, really sad. The reason, again, I didn't use it, and then it was dead rather quickly. And probably also old stock, right? I buy it here in the Apple store. This is just brought this 2 or 3 years ago, not that old. Of course, it was probably on the shelves there already for quite some time. And then you use it 6 months and it's dead. Thank you very much, Apple. And what is really sad, I've witnessed this here multiple times, and you see these cells are perfectly fine, not swollen or something. And what I've done also on this one, so I've not only checked this on one, but also this one here, this more broken one on the other MacBook here. I charged this with a lab power supply, which I also have done on other machines, like the Oco. Microphone cable are still plugged in, apparently still plugged in. Too many cameras here. How much battery do we have? The second Sony. So the second Sony camera will die eventually. This is why we need to hurry a little bit. So I have done this also with this Oco battery, which is also lithium polymer something. And okay, there's some. So, and this battery, I said this multiple times on videos related to this. I have repaired this. This was of course also dead on arrival after 10 years of no use and such window shelf decoration stuff. And this battery I can still use, by the way, maybe even right now it has charge. Yeah, it still has charge as per the previous video. And what have I repaired? Not only, so this would also not charge because it was dead, and then this smart charger would not recognize it. So I pre-charged this. You can just flip this open. It's just with some snap-in noses placed in there. Not that you would likely have an Oco battery, but just that you know it. And if the cells have some charge, the charger will charge it again. And additionally, I later noticed that some soldering joint was broken inside on some flex cable things, so I've also soldered this, and since then I can use this decade or 15-year-old Oko just fine. Certainly this rare machine batteries are super hard to come by. And so you see with this you can just charge and use it, but not so with Apple. And I analyzed this 1 or 2 years ago a little bit, but have not continued because not that much fun and not that much profit. But now with this YouTube channel we can continue on this. So I will welcome Mark, by the way. Appreciate all the audience and comments. So what I will do now finally here, and this is what we have this amazing YouTube channel for, is battery firmware hacking, because I figured, by the way, how many scenes do we have here? Do we have a scene with this camera? And maybe we need to, okay, need to reset this transform. So because what Apple is doing is they have a kill switch in there, which many PC vendors do not have. And this kill switch is, for example, if the cell is completely empty, Apple will, come on, I think there's no, this comes from editing your scenes live on YouTube. So what Apple will do is, when the cell is empty, on certain conditions, for example, when the cell is empty, they will set, so they have two things, there's also some kind of fusing in there. And because, so what I've done, verified, I have not finished, I think, the sentence from earlier. I have verified this with this cell and the other cell before I desoldered the other cells there. I pre-charged this like this Oko with a lab power supply in the hope that the charger would then charge it again, but it didn't. And this was even, I charged for probably 10 minutes with my usual lab power supply here, and then the battery lights even came on here again. And then I had here like 2 lights. I was charging 20 minutes here with some couple of amps. And the lights even came back on. This was of course a year ago or 2 before my YouTube channel here. And you would think if the lights come on here and it has some charge, it would work in the MacBook again, but no, it didn't. So I had here 2 lights. I had this charged with lab power supply and it would still not work in a MacBook, which I find really shame. And also obviously, maybe we switch back to the main camera because we today have 2 cameras here. Of course, this crap is glued here with adhesive and such. So it was quite some effort to pry this open. By the way, what is not really sure where was this in there. I've already laying this here in the, not really sure was this on there, not, anyway, not really sure what the situation was here, if this was there or not, whatever. But this was glued rather heavily also. Yeah, here's glue residue at the border, as you can see, and this did not, as you see how much I had to pry this open and bend this here, this did not just came off. This was probably 10 minutes of prying with a screwdriver and such. You see here all the amounts of adhesive, and this is also really, if you are as a computer scientist, electrician, mechanician and such, you see this kind of construction. Does this reassure you to spend all this premium money on Apple products? And I'm not here to shame Apple or just unnecessarily talk them down or bad. This is just like my other video, 10-15 years on this Apple product, and then if you take a look, not like treat it like an object, like you hang it on the wall like an like a painting. If you really, with an open mind, look on these things, is this how it should be? And this is a green company who say we recycle and amazing. Not only is this stuff glued heavily, they even intentionally disable it. And here is from a previous Black Hat conference, battery firmware hacking related to this topic. So how does it work? Of course, there is some bus, one wire bus. Maybe you heard it a little bit also on Louis Rossman's channel already. And so there is a system power controller, system power supply, of course, and here AC/DC converter. I hope, by the way, we don't have too many drop frames. No, we haven't. And so this is communicating intelligently and controlling the charge. And I've read somewhere, so what this gentleman here has done is he wanted to hack this and intentionally fry and explode this, so don't try this at home if you do not know how electrons flow, and don't burn you and yourself down, don't electrocute yourself and don't sue me if something goes wrong. Here you see the same PCB as I was just holding in the camera, and I also made me here from this other camera already. Now this soldering joint broke off, but made here also already an adapter 2 years ago, and there you see how much fun stuff you do, and certainly it is more fun to do this on YouTube with all of you and document this fun journey. Can you also focus? I think you focused already. So yeah, just that this one solder joint just broke off, but whatever. I think this is from the other battery I took out there. And he documented here, for example, that there is a password. So this is of course a regular, so much to Apple integration and amazingness. Of course, no, they just buy standard industry standard components off the shelf, from example from Texas Instruments. Here some BQ29412 overvoltage protection IC and some BQ29312 battery protection analog front end. And here's, by the way, some fuse. So there's also some abnormal temperature rise. TCO perceives the heat, and so there's also some heat fuse in there apparently, which I think I measured at least on both. They are not blown, so they were not over temperature. This also means if you solder around there, you can, with soldering heat, destroy your abnormal temperature, overheat, over temperature protection thing. So here's this battery smart pack electronics documented here from this Black Hat talk from whenever was this, 2011 or something. So you see you have this smart BQ20Z90 or BQ20Z70 smart battery controller, Texas Instruments I think. And here also this chemical fuse thing here, and what do they have here? ADC, so analog, of course, analog digital converter for voltage measurement, and probably also voltage drop on the current detection, current sensing here, I2² bus. And you see you have the PAC plus, PAC minus, and SMB, the system management bus, DNC or something. And I will probably not live stream everything because this will take here probably more than a day, and I have the feeling the super long daily live streams are not the most beloved here. But this is already the quick documentation of this. So what he found, so there are some smart battery commands like charge, spec info, mode, status, current voltage, alarm warning, and you can also send the other commands like programming commands, and he did here all the sniffing. You see probe points there on the battery, and here's a I2² communication obviously, and this probably should be on these pins, I guess. It's already 2 years since I took a closer look to this. So here you see the communication I2², I2C, I meant to say. And so there are commands like battery status, temperature, charging current, and yeah, were sniffed below some of the SBC, smart battery system or whatever. And what they also done, so you can program there also, probably they also use this for factory programming, I would guess. And there's also like seal, so if you want to do any programming, you need to unseal this with some password. And what this talk here was about from the Black Hat conference, as far as I remember, is that they did not change the password. They used the default password, I think. And they called out here Apple to be lazy, that hackers can hack the battery and make them explode and such. And so this is a password like to seal, to do any serious programming, not only to read but write something serious, like you could reset the cycle count, or if you are a evil reseller and you want to resell them as new, you could probably also maybe reset the cycle count, the charge count. So unseal with password, seal, and boot ROM full access mode, exit boot ROM, enter calibration mode and stuff. And you see here, so what I will do, probably not on live stream, because this will take hours, because this is not what I usually do. Certainly the more esoteric stuff that we live stream here, the more I will get used to this again. And then it's also more efficient, but otherwise getting started with all the stuff probably not the most interesting. And what I've found, you see the talk is coming to an end, and there's also flash checksum and whatnot. He disassembled there also quite some stuff, and he is warning also in this talk mostly that hackers can set your MacBook on fire with overcharging this, disable firmware checksum and stuff. And so what is really set already quite some years ago, because I have this battery already 3 years laying around here, and this looks good. If I could charge this, would probably work completely amazing. And this is completely environmental waste here and people's money waste also. And if we could reset this, because there is, as this fuse is, thermal fuse is not blown, there is just some bad state bit in there, some fault bit. And I think I googled this probably as per the previous specification of one of those integrated circuits there, this BQ something. So what I wanted to do is, as a proof of concept, unseal this controller with this password. The default password is somewhere in here, I think. By the way, maybe we copy already here something like this. Actually, here's already the chipset technical reference. Let's see how this loads still apparently. So there is some fault. Let's quickly see if they're charging fault or there's some permanently disabled thing. Some permanently fault bit somewhere in here. And this charging disabled. And to reset this, we need to unseal this as far as I've seen 2 years ago. Send the unseal command with the password, which hopefully still is the default, I would hope. Otherwise we might need to brute force it or something if this lost brute forcing the password. And permanently fault failure. There's even there is something here, clearing permanent failure. The BQ20Z80 permanent failure can be cleared by sending 2 manufacturer access commands in sequence. First command sent to manufacturer access is 2673. The second command sent to the manufacturer access is 1712. After sending those 2 commands in sequence, PF status flags are cleared. And this is what I would ideally want to do. And of course, don't try this at home and don't blame me if something goes up in flames. But with this is just 6 months old, barely used. And there you also see somehow this Apple MacBooks and batteries have a super high self-discharge rate, that if you leave this on the desk for a couple of months, these batteries are bricked. Which is of course not a huge thing if you use it every day, but if you have a collection of vintage Apple things, this becomes a huge problem. So from what I have seen, welcome Danny by the way. So from what I have seen, we want to hook up here I2C and poke around there with these commands, hopefully. And what is really set, I've messaged this author, by the way, okay, we left this previous site. I messaged this author of this Black Hat talk. He is also obviously on Twitter. Was this Charlie or Charlie Miller? And 0xCharlie there on Twitter. I messaged him already 2 or 3 years ago and asked him, hey, because he has some, I think he has code that would make this really easy, because apparently on macOS there is a system framework that allows to send commands from a program on Mac, and maybe he doesn't want to share it for prevent hackers to exploding MacBooks. But if he would if he would share this this program, then I could just write here a couple of line modification to unseal and erase here, reset this permanent failure thing. And because he also bricked here, you see he bricked there quite some batteries apparently, as you can see as per the talk papers here. And I don't have so much to lose, but certainly I don't want to brick the batteries that I currently have there in these vintage machines. And again, if you have a couple of those, you don't want to leave them on the drawer and discharge. If you're collecting Macs or something, other PCs like this Oko, you need to charge this every other quarter or half a year. So to summarize, what I will probably do, not on live stream, but maybe leave me in the comments below if you want to see all this on live stream, but I have the feeling the longer we have here random stuff, the less people watch it. I think this is all you need to know about this smart battery. There's also ACPI or something smart battery specification, maybe even linked here in the bibliography. So this is a series, here's the SM bus, so probably this one here. And maybe you can even do this plugged into the machine. At least he has written this on macOS. We could also check actually with the Linux kernel, but maybe I give a short summary of, often I start here sentences and then I run away with the topic on different things. To summarize, this is on some bus, usually probably I2C. You can send commands like temperature, voltage and such, and also write commands, which is usually should be protected with a password, which often might be the default password, which we could also quickly check. You can also send calibration commands, obviously, if you replace their cells, if you have a repair shop or want to open one. And also, this is what we want to do now, probably off stream, unless everyone is screaming yay and yes and please continue, but maybe not. Send this unseal command. I'll first get the stuff working. Not sure if I will take a microcontroller or if I try this inside the machine. And then send this unseal command, set this reset commands and hope this makes this battery working again. By the way, I think this is probably this temperature, chemical temperature fuse thing hanging here. And just yet you also have seen this here for maximum education. And maybe let me know what you think about this amazing dual camera setup here. Probably can't have enough cameras, I guess. And the hacking should be fun here. I have the feeling the content gets better if I pre-record more or prepare more. This, like other live streams, I have just started here and recollected from memory. And let's maybe check here the password. Was this, where have I clicked? I clicked already. Let's go back and check default. So I will probably also here live on, so this live stream will go on another 5 minutes at least. You do not need to leave this here already, but you see we already talked 23 minutes just for the basic overview, and tinkering around there just takes hours without progress. So maybe I just tinker in peace and harmony with another coffee or two and report back as soon as I have your progress. This might not be today, not even sure if I will continue so much today. I only wanted to have this educational content regarding surrounding smart batteries and the situation that Apple intentionally disables, bricks the cells if they are discharged. And here is MacBook battery shipped with the default unsealed password of hex 36720414, which was found by reverse engineering a MacBook battery update. On MacBook batteries, the full access mode password is also hard-coded and default to just all bits set to 1 with hex FFFFFFF. Just that we have documented this here also. And again, don't try this at home. Don't set your batteries or home or anything else, yourself and your family, on fire. Don't sue me, be warned. Don't skip over this warning lightly. And we can check here actually if the Linux kernel, as last thing here on this live stream, I've not pre-checked this. I think I poked around there in a year ago, because I'm not really sure if the Linux kernel has a smart battery driver that would, by the way, what are we even, this was probably not the scene I wanted to live stream. So many camera scenes getting slightly out of hand here. And because I'm not sure if the Linux kernel, so Linus, Linux, what GPIO system, what Linus, oh, this is not Linus Torvalds, it's another Linus. Yeah, so many Git repositories, so Torvalds. The problem is also that when you click here. So here it is, because then when you look for, search for Linus or Torvalds, then you get here other things. So the question is also, where exactly was it? By the way, to critique, by the way, somehow this is not the right scene that I wanted. Why is nobody saying something? Or did I? Anyway, misclick somehow. And by the way, one fun fact, I really wonder that sound, because this is for historic reasons, that sound should be in drivers. Maybe I, for the fun, sent a patch to the Linux kernel mailing list, moving sound to drivers, slightly unintuitive for historic reasons. Really funny that this not as primary important sound subsystem here has his own top level directory. Usually it should be, in my opinion, be in drivers sound, but whatever. And because the problem is now, where should this battery thing be? Maybe here. Battery, here's something, and smart battery. Smart battery, what is SBSS? Is this smart battery system driver? Hey, our kernel foo is not letting us down here. And command, because we could theoretically try, here's actually command ACPA battery reader. The question is, are this here normal commands? Because on the first glance, we couldn't try to match this if this matches this specifications that we had earlier there. But again, it might be easier to just simply take a microcontroller and send their I2C commands without this in-kernel driver ACPI stuff, because the regular ACPI stuff that is not the smart battery stuff does not have this kind of commands, I think. This is probably the old-fashioned one, not as smart, from probably 2001, I would assume. And because this is only, not command directly in there, I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, probably the not as smart, and this is only an API call into the BIOS for reading this information. So with this you cannot do fancy smart things like sending I2C commands, because this is less smart in only being able to call regular BIOS functions like, hey BIOS, what is give me the structure, fill out the structure. The structures are probably somewhere defined here, like something like this. But yeah, this is a kernel structure, but as you browse over this, you see there are command structures probably that the BIOS fills out there. So with this you have no smart control and only get this info from the BIOS. And yeah, this is the whole battery driver. And the other, the more smart thing is this SBS thing here. And do we, by the way, have here I2C? No, we don't. Let's see what the command for battery. But again, this takes super long to read and poke around here, and as so often, it is often easier just to hook up a microcontroller and send their commands. Because as you see, getting familiar, actually this driver is also not that long. You see 740 lines of code, and as you know, we like super small, simple stuff. But again, this might not be able to send I2C commands, because this might still be too generic for ACPI stuff. Maybe the Apple macOS driver is doing their more fancy things, as Apple knows what kind of stuff they built in there and do their direct register level poking. Here's, by the way, something. This spec requires bit for always to be 1. If not set, assume that the implementation doesn't support an SBS charger, and on some MacBooks it's the status of hexFFF is always returned, so no matter whether the charge is plugged in or not, which is also wrong, so ignore him. So as usual, documenting has some Apple bugs, because peak bugs even in Apple battery implementation. And here's ACPI SM bus read. So actually this looks, if this is already called SM bus read, I have this suspicion it sounds a little bit like you could send generic commands there actually. But yeah, I see already watching now people already unwatching, and this is why I will probably continue with this on in a quiet office with some coffee. But leave me in the comments below what kind of content you like most, and if you have learned something. I sure hope you learned something. Thank you so much for tuning in here, and yeah, one last look to the, makes me really sad that you need to open this battery like this. By the way, the actual other battery here was screwed together. Not that you would see it with this one. Where's the rest of the case? I actually have, because I brought a Chinese aftermarket case, I have actually, because the Chinese aftermarket battery plastic looked ugly, so I have actually used this plastic here for the Chinese battery, because this was just too glossy and ugly. This looked really shitty. This is why the original cover of this battery, the more matte plastic, is there on my Chinese replacement battery. Any Linux updating stream on site? Yeah, we could do this. So the problem is, I could actually on some days like yesterday and today live stream here the whole day more or less, but then maybe guitar string and analog watch content was too boring. Let's see, where's our, sorry for flipping here through all the cameras, try to figure where is even my, somehow oh, was it this that I was looking for? Anyway, so what kind of Linux updates you're looking for? I spent way too much time for Musel stuff, this C library with Unsealing, even tonight and some days ago. So many hours already went into this problem, still doesn't work. Or you're probably looking for EFI updates. And we could actually more or less live stream here for hours, just that I had the feeling that this is not the most sought after content and makes no sense if I ruin here my subscribing audience if they don't want to actually see it. And yeah, probably EFI you mean, right? And yeah, so much thing to do. Probably I need to do, I don't even have a hammer here in the office to tangle this, but anyway, I only need to fix this here. This is just how it looks when you pry this off of there. Would need to fix this aluminum stuff. Yeah. And yeah, if we could continue live streaming on this, we will also later, maybe the next days. You see our ideas here endless if we still have Apple hardware to tinker with, and also, I mean, not only that, I can put guitar strings on and disassemble analog watches, then go back to Linux. We have also virtualization stuff upcoming, and EFI we have to do, and probably the next week, every other day some live stream in the morning or evening or whatever. And yeah, virtualization, AMD GPU pass-through, and also yeah, today I also wanted, I'm actually not that disappointed, although just testing the frame rate here, a little bit laggy, but so is somehow, maybe this actually, oh wait a second, I need to check here. Not really sure with the frames per second, because both of these capture things are USB 3, so right now I'm overloading my USB 3 bus here a little bit. And yeah, plenty of videos to come. You do not need to worry that I run out of ideas. We will continue throwing all kinds of random content on YouTube and see what sticks until we hit 100,000 subscribers, and then we will do it even more. And yeah, we have Linux EFI, so I could actually continue with Linux EFI stuff right now. By the way, now that you said we have 8 people in the audience, you know what we are doing, because otherwise this stream becomes too long. Let me just turn off this stream and continue with Linux stuff in a bit, maybe in 5 minutes, and you all can watch me do more Linux stuff. And this is not forgotten, so this is already 2 years here on my shelf or something, and I will definitely want to hack this battery. And this kind of things, I only wanted to document the start of this. You see, had I already a YouTube channel 2 years ago, we would have all the prying this open on YouTube, and this is why I started the YouTube channel, to document all this nonsense. Otherwise I do it alone, and then it's not as entertaining and educational for you guys. And yeah, so I will definitely, even though we can shortly continue with Linux stuff, we will not forget this kind of stuff. I can also continue hacking in the evening and night and such, you know, when friends and family are playing with their iPhone, with their Instagram and whatnot. I can hack on batteries. This is, by the way, a general recommendation. Instead of playing Sudoku or Tetris, just do some hacking for mental health and education, just whatever you're interested in. Do some graphic effects, and by the way, you don't even need to buy expensive stuff. Not only you might have a leftover battery there, you can also just do graphic programming without any hardware on a graphic window there, some graphic effects or whatever you're interested in, or just with some vintage stuff or your direct Vulkan, OpenGL stuff. No need to spend any money for educational tinkering. And 9 people in the audience as usual, the most people when we want to stop the stream, but fear not, as we discussed right now. Stay tuned, we are back live in 3 minutes for some more Linux stuff, just to separate the streams and keep them short. So thanks for watching, and see you back in 5 minutes with some AMD stuff on the table and YouTube having the stream separated.